get to the good stuff. Straight to the fun shit.
That's right, and that's the first thing people saw. Jarrod Cuthrell. I'm on live. This is LC Holt, and this is my weekly update for July the 30th. And I have Jarrod Cuthrell on the show, and he was the first face that you saw, saying that I should get straight to the good shit.
Yes.
And the reason we're going to get straight to the good shit is because we've had many technical issues tonight. So we're going to try and jump into this thing. I got to give you an introduction for the people that didn't see the previous thing. But you are one of the stars of my new film, Spiritus, right there behind me. That poster with the fucking hand coming out of the wall, that's Spiritus, and this guy's in it. So, Jarrod, how you doing tonight?
Oh, good. This has started up so much more hype, and I'm ready.
I know, man. I just tell you what, I'm having so much fun. So I wrote and directed a movie a couple years ago called Spiritus, and I was casting this movie, and I couldn't find this guy that was going to play Wayne. And I'm sure some of you have probably already heard the story, but by God, you're going to hear it again. So then I reached out to some people, Jay Burleson, who is a director in his own right from Birmingham, Alabama. And there was another guy named Jason Keener, and they turned me on to this fellow who you just saw again, named Jarrod Cuthrell. And so, Jarrod, I sent you what, a scene, and you did a video audition for me?
I did. You sent me a scene on the phone. I sent in a video audition without having spoke to you, and you got back to me. I want to say within a couple of days, a week tops, and I was in there.
That's right. And then I sent you, a script, and you read the script, and you thought this guy is incredible. Not only is he a beautiful and talented actor, but he's also a writer.
It was the handsomeness that drew me to the script. Pretty much when you read a script, you know right away, a page or two, whether someone's a good writer or they care about what they're doing or just their vernacular, whether you want to audition or not. And this was a good thing. I was like, this is going to be worth my time. Sent in a video audition and got it, and glad I did. It was a really good experience, starting with me auditioning on a phone call.
Right. And, this was actually, I've just thought of this. Google Hangouts, which is what we're streaming through here, might be a cool way to audition for future films. I wonder if people are doing that yet. Have you heard of anything?
I would imagine so. Yeah, I mean, we're old. I imagine these 18 to 20-year-olds are well beyond it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Because, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I got my first cell phone when I was in college.
Yeah.
And people nowadays are living on cell phones, And I'm like, you guys, stop playing with the fucking telephone. I mean, it's like the David Lynch thing where he was like, how can you think that you've experienced a film on your fucking telephone? And that's absolutely true. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah. And I think this is the place to talk about it. Like, if we're going to get in on the young generations and their cell phones, I can't think of a better place than on the Spiritus interview with LC Holt.
Oh, Google Hangouts, by God.
That's right. Yep.
So back to Spiritus. So you came on board. I sent you the script. You enjoyed the script. You thought I was an incredibly talented writer and a very handsome man.
Correct.
And then you came on board with the film, and you showed up, and we were wrapping up production at one location, and you came in, and I looked at you, and I thought, this is the sharpest dressed motherfucker I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
Because you came in there in practically a three-piece suit.
Yeah, I did. Well, yeah. I if there's a way to command a room, it's with that third piece. And so I knew when y'all were filming, I was like, these amateurs need to know what's up, what I'm bringing to the table right away. And we clicked. I mean, you saw the respect. I respected you, the striking eyes, but the kind words. And we were a go from there.
Yeah, we were rocking it, man. Yeah. And then we did this. You did a lot of stuff. I think this time, we need to go into the story in the gully.
Okay.
Because unlike the previous time that we did this, the story in the gully was a complete nightmare of epileptic proportions. So this time, I want you to tell the story of the time we were filming Spiritus down in the gully.
Okay. So we were filming. It was one of the first things we shot. Some pretty intense scenes, and almost the introduction of my character. And we're about 2 hours into some intense shooting, a lot of physical stuff, a lot of work. And to get down into this ravine that we were filming, we had to use a rope tied to a tree with all the equipment. You guys were carrying all of it. I wasn't doing much except for myself, and had to lower ourselves down carefully through like swampy creek runoff to get down to this gully. I like the word gully. You chose that well. And while we were down there shooting, a little while into it, we hear some voices, and you can't shoot if there's voices in the background. So we wait to see what the commotion is, and we look up and we see these like women, maybe like 20 to 25, chatting, talking about getting down there, but they can't see us because it's kind of a wooded area, so they can't see what we're doing or us at all. And we're quiet waiting on them. And one of them's like, "Hey, I see this rope. This is how you get down there. I'm going to go for it." And her friend's like, "Well, be careful." So she grabs a hold of that rope and starts to like lower herself down, and the rope just slips off the tree. We knew that was coming. She did not know. We didn't tell her. And so she starts to run, that really fast run when you're down here, like when they chase the cheese and it all goes wrong. And it does go really wrong for her. And so she starts like falling and spinning over herself, hits the bottom and scorpions real hard and makes the noise like the grape stomping lady, like for a minute. And she rolls over and her friend's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think I'm okay." And like stands up and looks around and doesn't realize there's a whole film crew looking at her with cameras. And she's like, "There's a whole shit crew of people down here." And then just quietly gets up and walks away. But alive, shamed but alive.
How did she get back up the gully? Do you even remember?
She had to have walked around. I think her main goal was to get out of our view. So she kind of just scampered into the woods like a sad Bigfoot, and we never saw her again.
Yeah, she just totally just vanished. That's true, because I remember her being there, and then she was gone.
Yeah, it wasn't. I'm not even sure if it was in the direction of her friends. She just had to get away.
Right. It was like, get me out of this situation, please. And the one thing that I was really upset about is I wasn't rolling the camera.
So sad. That would have been our ticket. Like, if the movie had that as an extra, they would have bought the movie to get to the extra.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that could have been on the DVD. Everyone would have seen it. Everyone would have enjoyed it. And they would have gone away happy campers. Money well spent.
Absolutely.
But we were also doing another, that was one fight scene we did. And then we did another one with you. And it was at the rock quarry. And that was so damn hot, man. Hot.
Yeah.
Hot,
so
hot.
From my side as an actor, like I was there, I shot in it. There was, at least in the gully, while it was physically demanding, it was shaded. This place was basically a Saudi desert, a lot of sun, no places to hide from it. Why did you choose that location?
That's a good question. That location was presented to me by the sound man, who was Jonathan DeVilla, who I appeared in one of his short films recently.
Yeah. Okay.
And his brother worked at that rock quarry, which is basically a place where they just move dirt back and forth, and then I guess they sell the dirt.
Right. You got to sift it. You really got to sift it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a constantly changing landscape because they're literally moving these things back and forth. Well, the area where we were shooting, I chose because there was old, rusted equipment, which I assume was used at one point for creating gravel, because you would ride it up a conveyor belt and then it would drop into this thing and crush it. But this stuff was completely disused, and there was rotting cars, and just it was really interesting to look at. So that's why I chose it. Now, when I first went out there to scout it, it was not 100 and something degrees.
Yeah, I think it was 160 that day, 160 to 170.
Yeah, maybe 200. And normally, and we were not at the time of day when we shot, because keep in mind, we shot that midday.
Yeah.
And there was like that conveyor belt through a single strip of shadow straight down in the midday heat. And it was probably about 1.5 feet wide. And when you have, I don't know how many people were on the crew that day. It was 2 actors. It was me there was a sound guy, and there were at least 4 or 5 other people, and we all had to try and figure out. Now, we did have the truck, because your character has a truck, and that truck was big enough for us to climb into, but it also had a lot of equipment and stuff in it. But it had great air conditioning, and we would sometimes just run off between takes and jump into that truck and like rehydrate real quick, because the other actor was about to basically die of heat stroke.
Yeah, which is it's good that you did have the waiver, but it wasn't for like filming. It was specifically for this location. It was a death waiver to not be blamed. Like we had to sign it.
That's right. That's right. Because I'm not paying for your cremations and shit. Like you guys.
Well, if we had stayed there, we would have cremated. If we had been there any longer, free cremation.
We would have proven that spontaneous human combustion does actually exist if you stand in 160-degree weather all day long and fight with people.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and so that was probably my most difficult day on a film shoot ever. And that's really saying something, because I was in one movie in particular, which was probably one of the worst movies ever made. But I'm not going to. No, that's a tough one, man, because if I say that, then I've always had this thing about not saying what that movie was.
Okay.
And I feel like if
movie?
Oh, hell no. No, man, this thing would cost. Listen, this thing costs millions, probably at least $1 million.
Right.
Okay. This was and I'm going to stop myself, because if I go any further, I'm going to say things I'm going to regret.
Okay. All right. No problem.
So is there anything that you regret from this film?
So far, yeah. I mean, we'll retread some of the other stuff. I do regret not doing our commentary track so far. It is coming, everyone. Eventually, I don't know on what edition of the DVD or what goal we need to reach, but Elsie and I will be doing a commentary track for Spiritus. Of a special nature. Elsie can present it for you because he's the DVD commentators.
Well, what we were going to do is we were going to do a drunken commentary on Spiritus. We were going to sit around and we were going to drink and we were going to talk as the movie. And for some reason, I don't know why, people thought that was a bad idea. And
no one I talked to.
Well, I didn't think it was a bad idea. I mean, I love DVD commentaries. I always listen to directors' commentaries. Maybe it's because I don't know how many people do that. I mean, obviously, I've directed films and I'm in films and stuff. And a very professional guy. You wouldn't know it from this broadcast, but I actually am. So yeah, we were going to do that. And I still think that's a possibility for the... we could do the special edition of Spiritus, which of course the world is calling for. We can tell.
Yeah, already.
Already the world is certainly calling for that, and we'll do a drunken commentary on that when that happens, which is never.
Well, one of the great we had a lot of behind the scenes hangout time. I stayed with you during a lot of the shooting. And so we got to do a lot of things together that I don't think always gets to happen between directors and actors. And I remember one night, I think we were going through some of the script for the next day. And I think if we don't do that specific commentary, I think we did a full section, maybe most of the movie as Sean Connery and different James Bond actors.
Right. I forgot about that. We sure did. Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing is, if you get you and I together and a fair amount of Dos Equis then is involved, yeah, because you introduced me to, well, we were talking about this before. You didn't introduce me to foreign beers.
Right,
I'm a fairly big boy at this point.
Simple man as far as beer goes, simple and straight to the point.
I was a very simple man until I encountered Jarrod Cuthrell. And he turned me on to, amongst other things, Dos Equis, which I now drink constantly. And I will be drinking in large amounts as soon as this broadcast is over.
Nice.
We should be drinking it during it.
Well, I don't want to do logos. Like mine's off screen. I pull it in when I need to. This I don't want to say podcast. This stream is actually brought to you by Guinness Foreign Stout because it's foreign. And LC's stout, so that's why we're doing this.
I am quite stout. Yeah, I'm stout at 100 and 25 pounds. Everybody thinks that, you know, go ahead.
So I was just gonna go. We'll bring it back around to Spiritus here for a second. So like when we were filming, like we had most of our scenes, especially like I mean I know you shot the whole thing, but like that I was there for. There was no relaxed period. There was no really lighthearted moments for my character specifically. So throughout all the physical action and the some of the more intense moments of the film, what to you like did we capture some of your more intense writing the way you wanted to, or like is there anything you would have changed as far as physicalities or some of the bigger, I guess, dreadful moments or scarier moments? Did we hit what you wanted to do while we were doing it?
That's a really good question, and I'm going to give a very serious answer. I'm going to get serious now. I think that when I was when you write a movie, a screenplay, and you don't have a lot of money, you have to instantly say, well, about 75%. If I can get about 75% of this, I'll be doing pretty good. And the rest of that goes away to compromises of locations and effects and all kinds of stuff like that. So obviously you have a film in mind at the beginning after the script is done. And you have to realize that film is never going to really be made completely. So you have to make a film that is as good as that in its own way, using the limitations that you have. And I just watched, because for the DVD to, you know, make sure the color and the sound and everything was right, I watched it again for the first time in a while the other day, actually. And I thought, you know, I'm really proud of this movie. And that was a good reaction. It was actually a pretty good feeling because, you know, you don't always get that. Sometimes time passes, and this movie was shot 2 years ago, right?
Right.
And then we premiered it last year at a small screening, and then it actually is coming out this October. And so, yeah, I was happy with what I saw the other day. I was like, wow, okay, we made something pretty interesting. I don't know. Does that go into, was that sort of an answer to your question?
Yeah. I mean, if from paper to screen, I definitely understand. Like I've been involved with a lot of short films too. Like a lot of times if you get one idea and, you know, throughout a whole script, you wrote a full length movie here. If you hit one of your ideas that you love solidly, then you can consider that a success. Because a lot of times even that's hard to do. You can have so many ideas that you think are going to work, or you have shaky feelings that they may not. If you can bring one thing exactly how you wanted it out, then that can be considered a success, I think. And for you to see the whole movie and be happy with it, that's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah. And, you know, and I think I hit more than one. I hit a lot of stuff on this movie that I really liked. And there were compromises in so much as there were a few scenes that were written and we couldn't do them as written. Or we had a location that was changed at the last minute, and so we had to move to another location. But what was really amazing about it, one in particular that comes to mind, is that the replacement location was actually better than the original one. And so the thing with Spiritus is it just seemed that luck was on our side a lot throughout the shooting. It all seemed to kind of fit together, from the attitudes of the people, the crew, and the cast, and how well everybody got along together. There were so many ways a micro budget film can just fall apart entirely.
Well, I can ask you then, as a big time actor, you know, some of us are still low key, but you've been in huge multi-million-dollar movies. So when you are in charge of like the casting and like the crew and everyone around you, because I know a lot of these people you did know, some including myself, you don't. Is it more stressful when it's lower budget but you're in charge of everything, or when you know that you're costing money to all these people when it's not yours in control? Like, I'm sure it's a different kind of stress, but which one do you prefer?
It's more stressful to be in the position I was in Spiritus.
Okay.
Because I had a lot more responsibility. You know, as an actor, I've been doing that long enough that I feel like, you know, I kind of know what to do on a set, and I don't feel a lot of pressure as an actor. And I think primarily because I see people like, you know, Simon Barrett, who was on the show last week, and Adam Wingard, I've worked with as a director a lot. And these guys have a lot more stress on them than I ever do as an actor. So it's one of those things where I see it by comparison and I go, well, you know, my job isn't, it's not that difficult. But then when you're in the position that I was in doing Spiritus, where I was producing it and I was directing it, I kind of understood their position, not so much on a budgetary level, but when you have so much riding on you, it's it can be very daunting, because, you know, basically with Spiritus, this movie is either going to work or not work based on me. And
it's your fault.
yeah.
It doesn't matter how well we do. Like, it's just your fault if I mess up. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah. If you're credited as the writer, the co-producer, the director, the cinematographer, and the editor, the chances are it's going to fall on you. You know,
you could have fixed it somewhere along the way.
Right. And you can always just say, well, he just you know, led me the wrong way or whatever. But yeah. So there is that kind of stress. Did you feel stress as an actor on this movie?
I think anytime you get cast in anything, you've taken something upon your shoulders that you're never sure if you can do. If you see a script and you read it and you're like, oh man, this is it, I'm gonna kill this, then you're blindly confident, and you have a false sense of your capabilities. I think that just as an actor, I think you should be unsure of anything that you do, and I think up until you meet the people and know how they react to you, you're going to feel a tremendous level of stress, and that's not even from learning the lines. That's just well, you have this whole idea in your head. I hope it works for somebody else's head too. And in this one, it was gone pretty quick. We met, and I mean, just in us hanging out and the first couple of times we chatted, it was pretty clear, like, you liked it. You liked what we were bringing, what we were creating, and that takes a lot off, the burden off you right away, knowing that you've done the right choice. You know, you didn't show up like, what was that? There was some movie where I think Ryan Gosling gained like 50 pounds, and they were like, you're fired. You know, you make a choice and you hope it works, and sometimes it doesn't work out. But I think in our case, we were all right.
Did you ever have a moment in this where you were just like, I don't know what I'm doing with this character?
Not really. I think during the audition process, it was pretty quick, but you always have questions then. But after we chatted and you kind of explained what you were going for, and especially since you mentioned, I think in the last one, you had a certain idea for this guy, that you started with, like a big, redneck burly guy, and then it changed. I don't know, that knowing that you changed it, it just makes it easy. Like, I guess stressfully, you can always internalize, you can turn it into something for your character. I don't really think I was stressed during most of it. Some of the physical stuff, like while you're doing it, you get stressed out that you can't get through it. And of course, any emotional beats, you're always worried how you're coming across. But a lot of what Wayne, my character in the movie, I don't think he knows how to deal with internal stuff anyway. And so if you take your own insecurities and place it in that, I think it works. Like, you might be able to read it into either physicality or just behind your eyes, how you're trying to internalize something. If you can't deal with it, make Wayne not be able to deal with it, and it works.
Yeah. I think that was a good approach, because it all seemed to work out really well with you and that character. And you mentioned before, and I should probably say this now, that I had a lot of difficulty casting that character, your character, Wayne, because people, I think that the general thought was, well, he should be a big guy and scary and physically, like a burly redneck type guy, and that wasn't what I saw. And so I auditioned a bunch of people. And
how many do you think you auditioned? Like, it can be my character, any character. Like, I know this was like one of your last role casts, but how many did you actually end up having to go through before you found somebody?
For the whole cast, or for that part?
Well, I mean, we'll say whoever. Like, if you had something in mind specifically for people, like your difficulties in casting.
Well, I think everybody was pretty simple to cast. We had two different kind of platforms of it. We had the video auditions, which people could do a scene and send it in as a video audition. And then we had a physical, like, I don't like to call it cattle calls or shit like that, but a physical audition. People came in and they
Yeah.
stood and they. I mean,
Well, so
actors
there,
aren't
let me stop you
cattle.
there. Like with your video auditions, how many people do you think sent in?
Oh man, I can't even tell you. There were a lot, a lot. There were actually some for your role were a video audition. There were some for your role that came to the initial casting, the physical in-person casting,
Yeah.
and which that is always kind of weird, particularly if you're an actor and now you're directing and you're casting people and you're sitting at a table with other people and they're it feels like you're a judge on American Idol or
It's
something.
brutal. It's brutal. It's a brutal
Yeah.
thing.
And I try to always make people feel at home during those things because it's just such an odd circumstance, and you're never going to be on the set doing what you're doing right now. I mean, that's not,
Yeah.
it's not really equivalent to what the job is going to be. So I try to make people feel calm and relaxed. And of course, there's always that thing of people who have seen me in the movies. They come in and they might be even more nervous because.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you that. Like, how many people came to audition just to meet the only LC Holt?
Well, I think. I think quite a few, actually. No, I'm kidding. I would say that the answer to that is probably none, but I could be wrong. Yeah, I think that people were. I think I made them feel relaxed. I hope I did, and that's a big thing on the set too. Is you have to be relaxed as an actor. It's never completely relaxed because, as you said before, you do have a job to do, and you can mess it up if you're not careful. But a director should be guiding you one way or another if you're going off base. And I kind of direct actors the way I like to be directed myself, which, I mean, that was like with Adam Wingard. One thing he does is he doesn't tell you everything to do. I bring stuff, and if I'm wrong, he guides me back this way. And if I'm doing something he likes, he just doesn't say anything. And, when I'm directing people and I try to just do that because that's my favorite kind of director. I don't want to be told everything to do. Now, with some people, it's different. I mean, it depends on the actor as well. Some actors want to be talked to a lot, and they want to ask questions, and that's absolutely fine. That's great, and I love answering their questions. And some people, like me as an actor, just kind of want to come in. They have their idea, and they do it. And if they're off base, then you guide them back. I can't.
You kept the whip. Do you want to explain the whip? Like, there was a lot. Like, if we got off track, there was physical assaulting. So.
Yeah, well, that was, I mean, that's part of the job too. Sometimes you just have to slap somebody.
Yeah.
And, I slapped you and I pulled your hair and.
But that was also offset.
That's right. That's right. That was something that happened when we were at home after the filming was done.
Yes.
This is so bizarre. Jesus Christ. That did not happen, by the way. None of that happened. But like we were saying before, though, in all seriousness, if that's possible, we actually had a pretty good time on this. And what's your approach? What do you like from a director as an actor?
A lot of the ones that I've had, I don't think I've had really a bad like one-on-one director experience yet. And I don't know if that's luck or most of the time, I'll make a choice. And I think even with you, if it's something you don't like, you'll just say it. But it's not like it's ever been so outlandish or so outrageous of choice that you had to be like, what are you doing? It's most of them have given me free reign so far. If I can digress to like a quick story that I've seen go wrong, I'd be glad to share one as like an extra from a movie.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
So, a few years ago, there was that movie 42 with Chadwick Boseman. I was an extra on that movie, and I got, I don't know if it's promoted or not, but I got to be one of the little popcorn vendors in the stands, which is still an extra, but you just, I guess, are a glorified extra. And there was a dude in front of me. All the scene was, we're totally in the background of this movie, way off scene, and we're not dealing with the main director. We're just dealing with like the extras handler, I guess. And the guy in front of me is a popcorn vendor too, and the director guy is like, all right, so just walk from there to there when they say action. That's all you got to do. And so the guy's like, okay, cool, no problem. Action. The guy walks, boom, boom, just like I would have walked. And then they say cut, and the guy's like, dude, what are you doing? You know what? Just get out of here. Just go. And like he fired him like right there. And I was the next in line. And he looked at me. He was like, all right, dude, just walk a little slower. That's all you have to do. And I was like, okay. So I just walked slow, and he's like, good job. But the dude in front of me got fired for no reason as far as I could see.
And this was the extra's handler. He fired the guy.
He just like told him to leave, like sent him off set and told him to go sit in the tent. And I saw him later, just like his head in his hands, like I don't know what I did. And I was like, me either, dude. I'm so sorry.
Oh God, that poor little bastard.
Yeah,
I'm sure he did nothing wrong too. I mean, I'll tell you a story. No. I'll tell you a story of a friend of mine who worked on. I was in this movie called Big Fish, this Tim Burton thing, and I had a friend of mine who worked on that, and there was a scene where Billy Crudup is carrying his father. It's like a fantasy sequence, and he's carrying his father down to the river to put him into the river because the man's dying. And as he walks, he's passing all the people that his father knew in his lifetime. And Jessica Lange was a part of that scene. And my friend was there as an extra in the background. And what happened was he had like a little camera that he was taking pictures on the set. And I guess he took a picture in the general direction of Jessica Lange. And Jessica Lange said, told a PA, she said, go tell that guy I don't like pictures being taken of me without my permission. And so the PA came over to my friend and said, Miss Lange doesn't like pictures taken without her permission. You got to put your camera away. And he was like, okay. And so a few minutes later, she had a really nice, like Nikon type camera. And I guess she's a photographer in her pastime. And she was taking pictures around the set. And so my friend goes up to the PA and he goes, excuse me, go tell Miss Lange I don't like my picture taken without my permission.
What a terrible idea.
Yeah. And he didn't get that. He did not have the same extra wrangler, I think, that was on that 42 movie, because amazingly, he did not get fired. But yeah, but that's just the way he was. But it was a hilarious, story of, Jessica Lange.
Extras, man, it's work. Being an extra is work.
Oh yeah, and it's not a bad pay either. I mean, it's not too bad.
Yeah. People think they're gonna make it though. They're gonna. I had those same movie. I guess. Should I keep going on these? I don't want to like waste our interview time. Should we be talking about Spiritus?
Sure. No, go ahead.
So again, popcorn vendor in the back in the scene like of the stands of a baseball field. The cameras are down in the pit filming baseball players, not us. I'm walking back and forth pretending to yell popcorn, but I'm walking in front of extras, literally hundreds, 200 to 300 extras that are all there to, like dressed in the garb of the time, hats and suits. And I guess this dude is a professional extra or thinks so. And I'm walking back and forth in front of him, back and forth. And he's like whispering to me while I'm going back and forth, pretending to yell popcorn. He's like, listen, dude, if you block my shot one more time, I'm going to kick your ass. And I was like, dude, you think you're going to get cast from this audience, like as dude in the hat number 45? Just sit there and don't talk to me.
That was Brian Helgeland directed that movie, right?
Sure. Yeah, I bet so.
No, he did. He directed that movie. And so I guess what he was imagining was like Brian Helgeland was going to look at the monitor and go, that guy in the hat.
Yeah.
I need him.
Check right behind that popcorn vendor. That guy's got something. I need him now. But,
yeah. My next film I'm writing specifically for a guy in hat number 2.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I blocked some of his screen time, LC. Yeah, I messed you up.
Yeah, the popcorn vendor was trying to fuck him up, but I spotted him. He's mine.
Seen stealing popcorn, son of a bitch.
But yeah, I mean, I think we've had a pretty good time here tonight, Jarrod. In spite of earlier technical difficulties, I think we pulled it together pretty well, and I enjoyed talking. I enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time?
I did. It's I don't usually FaceTime or get on like the Hangouts thing, and just seeing your face big and in my face, it's just brings back so many emotions. I'm falling in love all over again.
Yeah, well, it's the same with me, man. When I see your hair, it just drives me wild.
Good. You're welcome.
But anyway, I appreciate you guys for sticking around and watching this interview. And I will see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Take care of yourselves.